major MBAs where people pay like 50 grand are basically taking coaching elements and incorporating that into like the huge aspect of leadership, because everything comes down to that. You're not going to be able to take your organization, your career to the next level if you don't know how to self-coach and you don't know how to coach others. So this is really exciting. Like, alhamdulillah, I truly believe that when we look at the Prophet Prophet's model and his leadership style, this is what it was about. So I'm here and I'm going to be having these conversations with you, empowering you in that. You guys know we offer Adwam, the School of Life Coaching certification through Discover You. Alhamdulillah, obviously the way we approach things is always the Islamic framework and why that is so powerful. And I hope to, inshallah, shed light on that as well. But these are just free sessions where I want you to get value and I want to support you guys, inshallah, in this way. Today's topic that I want to address with you guys is really what are the foundations of effective coaching. So try saying that 5 times. Foundations of effective coaching. And especially, like I said, I'm speaking from the Islamic lens, right? The Islamic framework. So what are the foundations that you need to have an effective coaching style, whatever that might look like for you. I know there's people here with many different niches. But regardless, I think there's certain foundations that everyone needs. And that's what I want to highlight to you today. I think when you're starting off your coaching journey, and again, it might be just for yourself. And I encourage you, whenever we have this conversation, always do start with yourself, right? Like always examine and have the self-awareness, like where am I in introspection to this, in application of this, whatever topic it is. Because again, if you're not applying it to yourself, if you're not aware of it on yourself, it's going to be really hard to deliver. And that's something that I constantly emphasize in my work, and the lines that I keep holding on to and I share when I'm mentoring other coaches is you can only take a client as far as you have gone, right? You can only take a client as far as you have gone. And if you're not going to go there, and I see a lot of coaches falling into this where they're not doing that work, they're stuck in certain mindsets, but they're like trying to help other people get there. Trust me, it's going to come off in your sessions. So what's the first foundation that you need to lay, inshallah, in order to have a strong, effective coaching practice, be it as, like I said, in any role, career that you might have? And the first one is having a holistic approach to transformation. I think this is so important and foundational. So often we want to approach coaching or creating transformation and just focus on that one niche, right? We think like, okay, if I'm a health coach or if I'm coaching my team on a specific aspect to deliver a deadline, we are just focused on that. And inshallah, having a holistic approach goes beyond the surface, right? Like creating real transformation, it involves going deeper, knowing that if your team is struggling on achieving a deadline, it might not just be that they don't know how to do their tasks, right? There might be other factors that are contributing to it. If you're trying to help someone in their health journey, or you're trying to help a burnt out mom, create some powerful transformation in her life, it might not just be that she's burnt out, right? There's factors into that burnout. There might be factors in the marriage, and that's not necessarily that you have to coach them in all those other areas, but sometimes just acknowledging that, the reason they're not making progress isn't just because something's wrong with them, but there's these other factors that feed into who they are. We all wear different hats. And so I really believe, a strong foundation for a really powerful, alhamdulillah, coaching practice, inshallah, is having this foundation that you approach it holistically. You approach it looking at all parts of the person. You might not have to coach them on all of those parts, but you do need to acknowledge it. You need to help them have that awareness. And so right now, I encourage you to ask yourself, what's that one area of growth in your life that you've been focusing so hard on that you maybe have been ignoring other factors that are contributing to it? What are other areas in your life that might be contributing to you being stuck, be it in your career, be it it's your goal in motherhood, your goal, inshallah, in trying to achieve or start some business, your goal in like a certain relationship? What are other factors that you've been overlooking and maybe not having that holistic approach to yourself? Because alhamdulillah, having a holistic approach can lead to profound, definitely profound transformation, but also nurtures the individual's other overall capabilities and strengths, right? So even for yourself, when you acknowledge its other parts of him, that's quite empowering and can strengthen you to make change here. But if you only focus on this area and you're ignoring, and I'll just share a really powerful example of this. I had a woman who I showed up for a coaching session, and she showed up and said, like, I've been procrastinating. I am not doing well right now. in, achieving the career goals I want. I'm trying to apply for jobs and just not making progress. And so we're just focused on this. If we were just focused on this, right? So she keeps like, building up the context of like, yeah, like, I'm just not getting the jobs I want, keep missing deadlines and this and that. So I can tell there's a pattern here of procrastination. So I said, can we just step outside of this for a second? Can you tell me what else is going on in your life? And then she shares that she's a newlywed who just moved like across the globe, doesn't know anyone, is trying to find a routine. She's never not worked in her life. And so all these changes are compounding and clearly showing up procrastination. There's definitely a lot of insecurity, anxiety that's coming up. And just her sharing this powerful piece of much more information depth, this holistic approach, we got to unpack so much. And subhanAllah, she has been like, since that session, she started making really positive changes. She got her discipline back, her self-motivation. She's, mashallah, just applied for like a program that she really wanted to get the application through and had, again, put off for months. She got that in. She just, mashallah, landed herself the job that she's been hoping for in this new country that she's in. And I think that's a really powerful example of approaching holistically. And sometimes, coaches just want to zoom in and think that that's the only issue. So for example, if I'd only stayed in that place of, okay, so you're procrastinating, you're not applying for the job. So let's talk about the application process. Let's talk about, what jobs you're looking for. And those are helpful. But if we don't address the main bigger issue that's going on here and have this holistic approach, she would have ended up in the same pattern of procrastination, of fear, again, the insecurity, not giving herself space to acknowledge there's just a lot of changes going on in her life, and maybe she needs to be a little kinder in her expectations. And so that's a primary example, inshallah, of having a holistic approach. And like I said, this can be applied to, inshallah, every aspect, even especially, studies are coming out showing that when it comes to the workplace, when bosses are having much more compassionate relationships and honest, vulnerable relationships, they're seeing higher performance. So again, if someone shows up at work and they're not doing too well, they've been missing, the work quality is dipping, the deadlines are missing, and you just approach it head on with that, you're actually going to probably end up losing that employee. Their motivation is going to further decrease versus say, hey, like, I'm noticing your work isn't at the level that we're used to expecting from you. Like, please share what's going on. And I've had these difficult conversations with my team at times, and sometimes that gives them permission to acknowledge these other aspects. And again, I don't need to go and let's, deal with their family issues, but just by acknowledging that this is going on for them and letting them know, like, I'm really sorry. And we want to, inshallah, see how can we support you in it, so that way the work continues to happen, right? And sometimes that just allows someone to feel like, what, I feel seen and heard, and I gotta, focus on what's expected of me. And I am, alhamdulillah, I have the space here to feel supported, and I do want to, they take accountability, responsibility, and they show up differently. So alhamdulillah, it's really powerful. So that's the first foundation. Approach it holistically. And you need to ask yourself, first and foremost, in your life right now, where you feel like certain growth or transformation isn't happening, are you stepping back and approaching it holistically? Are you approaching and realizing the other factors that may be feeding to stagnation? And then, inshallah, the other aspect I want to share of, I think a foundation. So I want to give you two, right? So another foundation that I think is really, alhamdulillah, important in having an effective coaching practice is empowering one through faith and self-discovery. Empowering people through faith and discovery. And obviously, what we do at Discovery, alhamdulillah, faith is part of everything that we do. There's no taking it out. And so, inshallah, regardless of where you're at, regardless of if you're working with Muslims or non-Muslims. So first, let me speak to the Muslim context, right? Alhamdulillah, when we highlight how this approach of coaching, how this aspect of like personal growth is rooted in our deen, and you connect people to their faith and ground them in like really powerful, inshallah, narratives, reminders, this can be a form of connecting someone with their purpose. And more and more and more, this message is repeated in the secular realm, but most importantly in our deen, that when you understand your purpose, alhamdulillah, that is the starting point for so much change. And so, inshallah, having a person, explore and get grounded in their purpose, that helps them align with their goals, that helps them align with their values, their inner strengths, the resources they have. And those are all the ingredients you need for starting transformation. So coming from a place of being empowered by your purpose and, inshallah, and taking that to have self-awareness, introspection, self-discovery. This is a really important foundation. If I were to, and there's a reason why I'm starting this, coaching corner with you guys with these two foundations. So the second one is really, really key. You can, again, talk about things like all over the place, but you got to get this down. You got to get people rooted in their purpose when they're starting off, inshallah, in their why, inshallah, and how that forms their goals, how those goals form their actions, how those actions form their values, and inshallah, ultimately that life that they want to live. And that is where, alhamdulillah, real change and transformation comes. Because when someone says that they want to have, this kind of life, but their actions and their purpose are completely out there, they're never going to get to this place. And the goal is to bring this gap closer and closer together. And that's where, alhamdulillah, real change happens. And now, if you're working with non-Muslims and you're like, how do I approach it if they don't necessarily have faith in God? I think there's still a really powerful conversation happening right now in the secular realm where people are feeling inclined to some kind of faith and belief. So if I was working with a non-Muslim, and especially in the workspace, I would still talk about purpose. I think there's still an element of what drives you to show up at work, right? What's pulling you? Again, if you're leading organizations, I think there's still a powerful conversation inspiring people of like, what is your purpose? And yeah, it might not be directly linked to God, but as long as it's linked to a deeper purpose, I would help people cultivate that. And that can really create a powerful culture narrative. So I think this place of empowering people from their purpose, alhamdulillah, sets the trajectory for where you want to go. Like it's just so, so powerful. And so I really encourage you, like this foundation has to be set, inshallah. This has to be part of those initial conversations that you have first and foremost with yourself, right? So put that down, right? What is my purpose? What allows me to keep showing up? I know my purpose very clearly, alhamdulillah, as a believer and what I'm created for. And I show up on these sessions doing that. And Adwam, obviously, like all of our modules are around the Islamic framework. We go really deep in our weekly coaching calls. We're constantly reminding the group and giving them the verses and hadith to ground them in what our purpose is. Alhamdulillah, how that informs then the value-based conversation, which is like a whole module we have in Adwam. So alhamdulillah, like this is something that, foundations that if you don't get right, you're gonna A, suffer yourself, but B, like your coaching practice can have a lot of holes and you're gonna feel people not getting the results they want. And obviously, as an effective coach, you want to deliver results, right? You want to help your client feel, inshallah, a pull and transformation and get them those results. And I really believe that I've seen it over and over again. I've worked with, alhamdulillah, thousands of clients now over the 10-year span. And I've seen those changes when these foundations are laid and when you approach your work with that way.